On the issue of Nikole Hannah-Jones, I remember one one thing, the one tweet that stood out for me. I guess she was responding to her critics, sort of as a group, and it was a picture of her displaying her grill on
Right.
on her teeth, and that just seemed very weird to
Yeah.
me. That somebody who is a Pulitzer Prize winner. I don't know if she was at the time. I don't know if
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
had been awarded yet. Would respond to critics in such a fashion.
Let's say, not even if she's necessarily a Pulitzer Prize winner yet. I mean, this is a top journalist at the supposed paper of record in the United States. And I remember that exact exchange. The person that she flashed her grill at and posted all these derogatory comments about was an African American critic of the 1619 Project.
Hmm.
So she's just engaged in very unprofessional, scornful, abusive behavior at critics from across the spectrum. Another example that came up is when James McPherson and Gordon Wood, Sean Wilentz, these are prominent historians at Ivy League institutions. Most of them, I'd say, are politically on the center left, started to point out some of the problems with the 1619 Project on factual basis, tried to substantively and very professionally engage the editors at the Times to get them to issue necessary corrections or respond at least. And she tweeted out that these are just a bunch of, quote, white historians, as if that was a sufficient answer to their criticisms. But this has been across the board. My own engagement with her, here's the irony of it. She came under fire early on, not only just for the American Revolution, but for some of her interpretation of the Abraham Lincoln presidency. And one of the issues was over Lincoln's plan to colonize freed slaves in the Caribbean and other locales, which is a historically true, accurate event. It did happen, and Lincoln certainly believed in it. In fact, much of my scholarship is in that exact issue, that exact area, and I discovered all sorts of evidence that teased out what happened in this program and why it ultimately failed during the Civil War. So she came under criticism from some historians on the other side of that thought she overstated the evidence, and she started citing my book in her own defense, citing my evidence and research in her own defense, and sent out several tweets and public comments with links back to my book on Amazon.
Wow.
A couple of days later, she realizes that I was the author of the same book she was citing, and suddenly I was persona non grata. So she abandoned that entirely and then started attacking my credentials, starting to say, well, because he's an economic historian, his background is in a policy school. He studies economics, not just straight up history. Magnus is therefore unqualified to criticize my essay and criticize historical events. And this is even though I've published probably I think I counted up over 24 scholarly works in the Civil War era and the economics of the 19th century, slavery, all the material that's exactly topical to the 1619 Project.